welcome from that short break, and welcome to the Twitter Jabs too. My name is Agi Owasi. Thank you so much for staying with us. So we are still carrying on the conversation in regard to the Kenya-Uganda relations. We gave you a whole, huge background earlier on the Twitter Jabs one. After the now General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is also a first son, made some comments that Ugandans have dubbed as reckless on social media and on Twitter in particular. Now, after that, we saw, a number of reforms or changes being made in the UPDF, and yes, him being promoted to general, among other issues. So we'll be deep diving into that conversation. But joining me today is Council Michael Aboneka, who is an activist as well as a lawyer. Good morning, Council.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Well, it's been a hot evening.
Yes.
And I'm coming in early morning. Well, let's see how it goes.
Oh yes, this is a very exciting conversation that has sparked a lot of controversy on social media with people with divergent views. To be very honest. And more than usual, we saw the president, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, yesterday come on to apologize for his son's tweets. But to start with, what do you make of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba's tweets?
Thank you. I think to start with is that this is not the first time the general is making those those tweets. Yes, they have been going on for a number of times, and I'm one of the person who has been asking, but he has a supervisor who is the CDF. I have never seen any communication from the CDF on the impropriety of his tweets and what have you. And you see, the thing is, the question I keep asking, that if General Muhoozi was any Ugandan, would he still continue to do the things he has been doing? Couldn't he been picked up? The point we make that those in power, do they have the luxury to say whatever they want to say and it is okay for them? Whereas those that are not in power are picked on even when they insult someone who is dead. So it has gotten that point where it is a serious issue of class. If you belong this side, the law will catch you. If you belong this side, the law won't catch you. But having said that, as an officer, first of all, a public officer, but at the same time, you wield power in the position you've been having as Commander Land Forces. So I've been asking, it becomes difficult to differentiate between Muhoozi, the person, Muhoozi, the first son, and Muhoozi, the army commander. Yeah. At what point do we differentiate and say, now, this tweet came from Muhoozi as an individual, as a citizen of Uganda, or it came from the Commander Land Forces, or it came from the first son who always shares a cup of tea with his father, who is the president. So it's difficult. So you cannot say, you have your right, yes, to express yourself, but the position you are in dictates the things you should say and not say. It wasn't the first time. He made comments about the Tigray rebels in Addis Ababa, and it almost put the Ugandans in Addis Ababa in bad light. And we're up in arms. Yes. And I don't know what was done about it. I hope the president did something about it. It's not the first time that, the same for Russia. He made comments about Russia. And for Kenya, I don't know whether it was just, strategic to say this whole week, today I'm giving it to Kenya. Yes. And there were so many things. And when you read the letter from the president, he is actually referring to the things he's talking about in terms of the elections in Kenya. Yes. And the way of operations and democracy. And he wasn't really emphatic on the tweet which everyone seems to be taking seriously of, I can occupy Nairobi in 2 weeks. He's talking about probably the things about revolution, vis-a-vis rule of law and constitution. I think that it's really unfair. And make it worse, that tweet had about 4,000 retweets. Yeah, it did actually. And over 20,000 likes. So the question is that those people who liked that tweet and retweeted, did they in a way also endorse his position? Can we also say that those people owe Kenyans an apology? The ones that liked his tweet and retweeted it. If you're going to take me for liking and sharing your post, can the same be taken for those? And actually, I wrote last night and said, those who are cheering on, what is their position now? Can we take them that they were also, endorsing a statement which is actually very bad in terms of international relations and diplomacy, that the president has apologized? So are these people also going to apologize? What position do they put us as citizens?
I, for one, do think that actually the president's apology came as a surprise. None of us really expected it. We thought, just like every other thing, this would have been a conversation, and after it would be swept under the carpet. But what do you think is the motive of these tweets? And the reason I say this is because previously we'd see, Muhoozi Kainerugaba tweet, all those, controversial tweets, and then he deletes them. But these have been on his Twitter handle until this day. And well, him as an individual hasn't come out to openly apologize for those tweets. His father is the one who has done it for him and on behalf of Ugandans. But what do you think could have been the motive behind them?
I really don't know. Whatever really goes on behind the scenes, and I can't say, I can't really mention and take hold of,
yes,
or make of what is this happening. But it is only say that it is unfortunate,
yes,
that can happen, and that he can be allowed to continue that way. And I think for me at this point is, if I am a parent, the first thing I do is take away the phone from you and say, please, let me save you from yourself. And calm down and relax. Tone down a bit. Because this is not the first time. It was the same thing when, all these issues were happening in Addis Ababa. And I think it was paused. When President Kagame came here, I think he made a comment during his birthday. And he said, I am offering myself to edit your tweets. He was communicating something.
Yes, he was. Absolutely.
So I think that as an individual who people are even fronting you and all these things, the projects and what have you, you need to realize that the position you are in is a very serious position that everyone is eyeing, and therefore your communication has to be carefully thought through. Yeah. So I really don't know what goes in, and sometimes I may think that sometimes these things are deliberate. Because even after that tweet, he goes ahead to say, I've had conversations with my father, and he's saying that my tweet annoyed Kenyans too much. It is even a question saying that did it even annoy you too much? Like, so trying to say this is something small. We've had, social media is very interesting. The president said that social media is for Lugambo some time back, for rumor-mongering and what have you. But now, he is even on social media apologizing on behalf of his son. The president now understands that social media cannot just be for Lugambo. Lugambo to me is for rumors and jokers.
Yeah.
It has implications. Now, imagine if Kenyans didn't react. Was the president going to apologize?
It would have probably been swept under the carpet just like every other thing.
Exactly. Number two, if it wasn't about Dr. William Ruto and the elections and what have you, and the attacks, on why President Uhuru didn't stand, was the president going to react? Number three, was the so-called people debating whether it's a demotion,
yes,
or promotion, was it planned or it came as a result of all these things?
Some are saying that it's a diversion for him to be promoted to, being a 4-star general, because it also would have created some kind of controversy, because there's those people in the army who are major generals and lieutenant generals. They are about 68, were in the NRM bush until this day. They are not yet 4-star generals. So they're saying maybe this was some kind of diversion for, the president to make a leeway for his son in a guise of a demotion.
Well, I didn't really know, but what I want to understand, and this is something I'll ask my friends in the security, how are promotions done? What is the basis for you to actually qualify to be a general? Is it how many commands you've made, how many wars you've commanded and you've won? Is it just about how someone feels? And also the fact that it is done by his father is looked at differently. Like, won't my father really favor me? So I think that this is time we start thinking about what nepotism looks like. It's very difficult to be objective when, you're supervising your son. It's very difficult. You can't. And even when you read the president's letter, unfortunately, it was badly written, I must say. I read it 70 times, badly written. I don't understand what exactly he was communicating. The apology is in there, but it's mixed up with lots of things. I can't really understand what is saying exactly, okay? But one thing for sure is saying that someone went on Twitter in the name of General Muhoozi and said several things. But, and I'm yet to see whether Kenya responds. You see, these things are supposed to be diplomatic issues. Same for EU things. I am seeing people, you know, going around and staging demonstrations around EU offices. That's not how things are done. And you see people supporting them on Twitter. I am seeing employees of Petroleum Authority Uganda and the rest taking on Twitter and blasting EU.
Yes.
These are matters of diplomacy. And I've not seen Minister of Foreign Affairs come out to make a statement and say, guys, please cease fire. This is a matter of diplomatic. It's a matter of diplomacy. That's how it has to be handled. You don't just take to Twitter and because you think you have a handle and some followers, therefore you can say anything.
Yes.
You see, the freedom of expression still has limits. Now, if something is going to put us in jeopardy, people are always arrested here in the names of national security. Now, how bad is this? So I think that can we also do a private prosecution if we think that whatever has been treated, you know, is contrary to the Computer Misuse Act, which, by the way, they have passed and they think that it was made for us. Yes. So I think that it is time for Ugandans to say, you know what, I think it's time for people to respect Ugandans and respect everyone.
Yes.
That whatever position you are in, it doesn't make you supernatural. It doesn't make you, you know, someone different. But I want to say that I think the president made a good move at that time. It's the only apology I'm seeing, the first public apology I'm seeing coming from the president. I don't know whether it's because of Kenyan relations. I don't know whether it's because of, I think President Ruto was supposed to come here on Sunday. Yeah. I don't know. But he said he has already communicated President Ruto about that. But we've had our own social media, you know, Kenya versus Uganda, and it's just us.
There's always those
the KOT versus UOT, you know, Kenyans on Twitter versus Ugandans on Twitter. And people are just there having their own fun and what have you. But you see, when that is a bit allowed in that space. Now, when you have someone in a higher position, if, for example, it was a Minister of Foreign Affairs saying those things, it would be difficult for you to say, I'm saying this as an individual and not as a Minister of Foreign Affairs. But all said is that we need to be serious. I've never seen the CDF come out. He has never.
But, well, we did see the defense spokesperson, Brigadier General Felix Kulaije, came on and said that Muhoozi, just like every other Ugandan, is exercising their right to, you know, their personal view, and he's not speaking in the capacity of a UPDF officer or as the commander of land forces, but he's speaking in his own capacity. But we did see him, you know, say my army, me and my army. So which army was he referring to?
Maybe of border borders.
Oh, the Muhoozi army on social media.
That's what, if that's what everybody is saying. Yes. So I'm saying that, you see, it becomes confusing. When I go to your handle and I read the description, I am a mother, wife, also chair of this and command of this. Therefore, that handle is saying you all these things. So you can't run away and say, I was saying those things as a mother and not as a minister. It's difficult. It's very difficult. And I think that this is a test for us. It is a test for the country. That do we treat some individuals differently from the rest? Because what even UPDF was communicating for the first time, they were just relaying what the president had already communicated. This person has been promoted. They didn't even talk about the tweets at all. But the question is, do we need to, at what point do we as a country say, let systems work? Let the CDF, you know, pass a resolution. It's the first time Minister of Foreign Affairs is passing on such a statement.
Yes. Did
they pass any during to Ethiopia? Have they passed any, you know, to European Union in all these things? So I think that in international relations, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and what have you is very clear on what states are supposed to do, what missions are supposed to do, and above all, it's about respecting sovereignty of countries.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we haven't seen General Muhoozi come on to apologize. The last statement I saw was him saying, I will say a prayer for my army, for our army, you know, as you know, he resigns from being the commander of land forces. So what does this make of him as an individual? Not even just as an individual, because he's an iconic figure in this country. We cannot downplay that fact. He has served, you know, in big positions. Commander of land forces is a very big position. At the moment, he's a senior presidential advisor of special operations. So for him not coming out to apologize or even say anything in regard to his tweets, and it's his father, you know, making that apology for him, what does that speak of him? And the fact that maybe he's getting away with this because some Ugandans are worried or concerned that why does he have to get away with this? Ideally, he should be, you know, in front of the military court-martial, you know, questioned about those statements that he put out.
Exactly. You know what? The internet doesn't forget. And so do Ugandans. People think Ugandans forget and move on quickly. We don't. There's always something happening. Number two, you raise an important question. If he wasn't the first son, I'm sure he will be arraigned before the disciplinary, before the unit, the court-martial. If he wasn't the first son, he would be arraigned. But he's the first son. You see, the moment the CDF cannot say anything about your behavior, and it has to be commander-in-chief, there's a big problem. But the second thing is, so you're now general. I don't know what the office of general does. I know he's a special, he's, you know, presidential, yes, he's not retired, he's still an army person. So does the army wait for someone to make a complaint? If they're waiting for someone to make a complaint, the complaints will be made. But ideally is that army is a very disciplined institution, that you must follow rubric, that you must follow set standards, and that there are things you cannot do, so to jeopardize. And some of us, we've been saying that most of these things are even political engagement. As an army person, you're supposed to be non-partisan and non-political, and you're engaging on these discussions. And everyone is taking it, you know, lightly. But, again, I want to tell you that not everyone is sleeping. Not everyone is letting things pass. There's just one day when people will have to take back what they said, and they'll have to account for it. So whatever you do, whatever you say, and I even called some of my friends and said, I saw you guys retweeting, I saw you, you know, liking, you can't take it back. But what does that mean for you? Yeah. So if for example, in a normal setting, that tweet or the number of tweets could constitute someone being disciplined, that means everyone who retweeted and liked
would be a part of
it. And it's a big problem. So do people know how to use social media, or they're just there and saying, let us tweet, let us like? A like and retweet can land you in trouble at some point.
Yes.
So I think we need to be careful and say there's no Ugandan above the other. We have the fountain of honor, who's the president, very good, but even the president has a way of communicating. He doesn't do these things. So then if people are parading Muhoozi as the next president, I fear.
Well, we did see another tweet. You know, he was mocking Kenyans, and he also downplayed the importance of the rule of law and the constitution, and what he upheld was, you know, revolution. And he said, you will come to learn about it. What does that say?
It says that probably someone is not interested in rule of law and constitution. They are interested in revolution. That everything else is not useful. It is only the revolution. But you see, the revolution also has set standards. That's the constitution in itself. So you can't say that we let us suspend rule of law and what have you and deal with revolutions. But revolutions are organized. Revolutions have their set standards. So I think that is too much, and I hope that one day he doesn't stand for president, because we shall remind him. And we hope that all his freedom that he's having is not protected by the Constitution, which actually is. That he's able to do everything else because the Constitution guarantees his right. So if it is sheer, it's just shame that you say you disregard the constitution, and yet it's protecting you from, actually it's even giving you the freedom to do whatever you're doing. And so I hope that one day, I don't know whether he will be a leader of whatever, but I think I will remind him of the things he said. And do you still need the constitution? And you see, Article 3 of our constitution is about the defense of our constitution. That's why some of us we work tirelessly to ensure that the constitution is defended to the latter. Now, anyone who wants to overthrow the constitution, it is a criminal offense. It is actually treasonable to want to overthrow the constitution. So when you say and disregard the constitution and tell Kenyans it is useless, first we did in revolution, are you indirectly saying that you can't respect the constitution and the constitutional law? So what kind of governance are you going to create? So if you don't, let's just go back to our monarchs and be happy. But they also have their own set standards. Yeah.
Well, that is exactly what one person said on social media. But also, I've seen a number of constants, because if you disregard the constitution, and previously we've seen the return of drones, and people have been abducted until this day. Their families haven't seen them. Some have not yet even been arraigned, in courts of law to get justice. So does that mean that even now, as Uganda, the constitution, the rule of law do not mean a thing?
Exactly. And for me, that's the point, that why we keep pushing. That don't think that you are immortal. Tomorrow you'll need bail. Tomorrow you'll need the same lawyer you are beating and abusing to come and argue bail for you. Today, the former IGP is now practicing law and having clients that want bail. He's arguing you can't now hold them beyond 48 hours. We need to understand that we are not immortal, we are mortal, and that you can't be in power forever. I think that's the other problem. I think some people think that they will forever be in power. Things change, and you need the constitution to protect you.
Yes.
So what do you need to do? Actually, they need to practice now to live by the constitution, so that when they become leaders or not, or if there is someone who is worse than them that comes up next, we shall be able to hold them by the constitutional values. Constitutionalism, deals with the excesses, the anarchy. Imagine when there is no, rule of law. We have some semblance of rule of law, but court orders are being abused. Yeah. People are being abducted, and someone says they were arrested. Then ask, so what's the difference? You arrest and arraign me in court. You're not arraigning me in court. The drones are drones. You have people who are never in military uniform, where you have almost parallel security agencies, and no one seems to care.
Maybe that's the revolution they're talking about.
Probably, but then a revolution that does not, the revolution, if it's any revolution that is for people, it must be for the benefit of the people, not making people orphans. Not making people lose their parents, not abducting Ugandans, not eating from Ugandans. Because there's a point where Ugandans have reached and they are angry, they are tired, they are hurting. People are getting lost, drones are drones, the military are beating people. So we can't live in such a country.
Yes. But okay, now let's talk about, amidst these tweets and this controversy that's still going on social media, General Muhoozi, who is now a General Muhoozi, Kainerugaba, has been given a promotion to a 4-star general. And yes, some people are talking about maybe it's a demotion. Others are saying, no, it's actually a promotion. So we are not yet sure whether it's a promotion or a demotion unless, there's some clarity. What do you make of this?
Like yesterday I asked someone that, what does the office of the general do? If you're general, then what? So because you see, when you're commander, you're commander. But of course, in terms of military ranks, you've gained, you're the first 4-star general, and is the youngest,
yes,
4-star general that we have. Okay, and from the previous conversations we're having, I wanted to see what are the parameters for you to qualify, and I'm going to actually look them up. Did he qualify? Does the commander-in-chief have the power to promote anyone for any reason? But what does that mean for the rest of the army? So I think we have to be careful on how we handle these things. So to me, whether it is a promotion or a demotion, it doesn't matter for the fact that he's a first son. If it was for any other army, any other person who is not even close to the family, it would maybe be different. but he's the first son. He's even saying that, okay, after I hand over my office, I want to tour the world. Which country can I go to first? You get what I mean?
Yes.
So he has the luxury to do that. But the question is, we have so many generals. What do they do? What does the office of the general do? Is it an office?
It's an honor. It's actually an honor. It's more of an honor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're just there. You're General Agi. We love you very much.
Yeah. General.
Then what?
Yes.
Yeah.
So does that mean it takes, you know, some power from him? Because initially, speaking about me and my army, he was speaking as a commander of land forces. So now he cannot speak in that capacity anymore. Because
then, yes, what if you're not even leading they call them a brigade, a division, whatever they call it, then what are you? What are you doing? Yes, you're a general, but what does a general do? I think that is very important. So because power is exercised when you have people you command. So if you can no longer command, then what are you? Yeah. So I think that this conversation needs to continue, especially in the military operations. Because in the military, yes, the rank is up. But then what do you use the rank for? And others are saying probably could they be preparing you for something we don't know. Yes. But I don't want to speculate, but it's good to look to have a forecast. But whatever happens is that now you're no longer in command. So as a general, what are your duties? I want someone to tell me, when you wake up as a general, this is what you do. Maybe to say,
the biggest honor.
Yeah, that probably you sit in the Security Council. I don't know if all generals do. So it's it's an honor. But the question is, what have you done to deserve it? I think that for me it was rushed. You can't more apologize.
Of counteracting, his actions on social media.
You can't apologize and promote at the same time. That was very bad. But probably they had to do it at the same time. I wouldn't do that. You say, I beat you, you were a very bad boy, and what have you. This is what they were saying, but then have a street. That's what they're doing. Like, okay, you're a bad boy, you shouldn't have done this again, but I've promoted you to general. Thank you for being a good boy.
Maybe it was more of the fear that how bad it would have looked, knowing you're the first son and then you're no longer commander of land forces and you're just Lieutenant Muhoozi Kainerugaba and a senior presidential advisor. So maybe it came in handy for him. Well,
we don't know what was behind the scenes, but that's the problems of having everything, looking at everything as a family. Nepotism. By the way, that is nepotism. Because then your hands are tied. As a child, you cry and say, that day I'm going to break these windows if you don't take me to this school, if you don't give me this rank. Could it be the same? So then what does daddy do?
Okay, now do you think that Kenyans really will forgive, this particular action? Honestly, to be honest, because I've said forgive and forget about it. Because initially there was, conversation that William Ruto may not surface on Sunday, on the Independence Day when we're celebrating 60 years. But until then, we'll never know. But do you think Kenyans can actually forgive and forget this, this whole controversy?
Yeah, I love these two countries. But I think what our colleagues in Kenya should do is, the president has apologized.
Yes.
And I don't want to say I'm apologizing on behalf of, let everyone carry their cross. Yeah, let Muhoozi apologize. But I think Kenyans will forgive us. That's why I'm saying I'm waiting to read the reply. In high school, when you wrote a letter, you hoped for a reply.
Yes.
So we have conveyed. So have they accepted them? I'm waiting to read a statement.
Yes.
And whether Kenyans forgive us or not, and that's the biggest question, that if the president has apologized on behalf of all of us, but have we, as Ugandans, the majority of us, have we forgiven him? Just as Ugandans. For what he has,
yes, for those tweets that put us in jeopardy. Yes,
as Ugandans. Yes. Actually, I was joking. Some friends are like, can I go ahead and book my flight for Nairobi with all this is what's happening?
Yes, because you wouldn't show the reception there, yes.
Yeah, the same that it was in Addis. People like, can I still fly to Addis and I'm from Uganda? So these things, people take them lightly because you see at the end of the day, it is the society that is torn. Now, same for Kenyans. The president may say, fine, we acknowledge and he writes back, but the Kenyans there, the voters, the wananchi, are they and Ugandans, have they? Can we say that now we're okay? We can move because Ugandans are hurt, the Kenyans are hurt. Then the big boys are saying, fine, let us, okay, we apologize for this. But I think that it doesn't take anything for Muhoozi to write and say, you know, whatever
I
did, I apologize. Yes. If he really thinks that it was a wrong thing.
But how will he say I apologize, yet he said, you know, I made certain statements that scared Kenyans too much, and that was right after having a conversation with, you know, the president.
It just takes another 30 minutes to
okay,
write let him just treat it. Yes. I mean, even if he doesn't mean it, that's what you see. You know, international diplomacy and relations is very political.
Yes.
Even when you don't mean it, you write that note verbal, you write that communication. So let him treat for the sake of everyone. And if he means it, we'll still find out. But you see, at the end of the day, is that there is damage that has been caused.
Yes.
Damage has been created. And I think Kenyans, you should forgive us. Where we are all East Africans, and the treat expressed by, you know, Muhoozi does not express the treats of Ugandans. Yes. We love you very much, and we hope we can continue with our relations as countries. What can we do, like they said?
There's nothing we can do. But as we wind up briefly, now with the Computer Misuse Amendment Bill on the way, do you think it would have captured General Muhoozi Kainerugaba?
Actually, even, you see, what is interesting is that the Computer Misuse Act, the way it is crafted, the amendments are very, very bad. I'd have been one of the people who are always fighting the bill.
Yes.
And we are actually saying the president not to sign it, because then it would even take his son on if he signed it, by the way. So I think that the way the Computer Misuse Act is created is a fact that if that tweet create hate speech, because now there is hate speech.
There is.
So if we look at the tweets and say these tweets create some hate, and you see, it doesn't have to be Kenyans. It has to be, it can be Ugandan. So if I'm to prove that his tweets have promoted hate speech in a way, as me as Michael, I am intrigued, I am ridiculed, I can go for I can take it on. But for me the point is beyond that. So you know, most of these laws have a colonial lining, that it is really for the people, for the rulers to rule the ruled. It's very difficult for me to take on a ruler as a Wanawinchi and Agi and I, than for them to say, you have called us names, you are saying we are, you know, whether we are bleaching our skins or whatever. It's very difficult for the Wanawinchi to take on a case against these guys. It's vice versa. Yeah. So it's really a law to protect certain people, politicians, leaders, whatever, from the hogwash of social media and the rest. But you see, the court has even said, as a leader, you're expected to develop some thick skin, because every day people will be stabbing.
Yes, because that's a public office.
Yes, people will be stabbing you, will be doing this. And you see, we don't even need the Computer Misuse Act. There's enough laws here to deal with these matters. This matter is a civil matter. They are civil matters. That you see, what happens is that if I feel like you attacked me in that tweet, I'll say, Agi, you know, put it down or apologize. If you don't, you know, you've seen people writing and say, okay, I want an apology on the front page, and people do it. If you don't, I take you on for defamation. So it's not necessary. So unfortunately, this particular law is being created to stifle debate and criticism against those in power. It's not really for the weak.
It's not to protect,
it's
you
not
know,
against
the common Ugandans.
The common Ugandans. Do you know what social media is and computer? It's like that street there. That border conversation that people have of, hey, hi, how are you? I don't like your shoe. I'm like, it's okay. So if I don't like your shoe, should we bother police?
Okay.
To investigate why, the intention of why I said I don't like your color skin? We are wasting a lot of time. Yet people are dying of Ebola, and medics don't have PPEs and hunger, and then we are busy bothering the police and the president to sign a law where it's going to be opinion against opinion. I think that I like your shoe. Another person is going to say, I don't like it. So why should we go into police and actually even you waste time to go in the dock and stand and say, when they say that they don't like my shoe, I felt like dying, but you didn't die, thank God.
Okay, let's, please kindly give us your final remarks.
I think the thing is, first, we are all Ugandans.
Yes.
Use all the communication channels you have sparingly.
Yes.
Because you don't know the magnitude of what the problem you could create, and especially those in power. Don't look at us as, you know, small insects and what have you. We are all equal. You're just that you are there given the opportunity.
Yes.
So treat Ugandans better. Treat the world better. We need to have, this world is a global village. Whatever you do, whatever you say, it can be seen in just a second, and the internet does not forget.
Never, it doesn't.
And especially people who want to go and become CDF of East Africa and become president of East Africa.
Yes.
I don't think that it will work. It will work for them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That was very insightful. Well, for me, I picked a lot of, you know, a lot of insight from this discussion, but one thing that I would say is accountability is actually a virtue. So for every parent out there, it's very imperative that you teach your children how to take responsibility for their actions. And you know why exactly I'm saying that? Well, that is all we had for you on this segment, but coming up is our views. This is Sunrise at Sea. Don't blink.